Welcome to the MrBoxingguru podcast. It is me, Sal, MrBoxingguru. Again, welcome to another podcast. It's me, Sal, MrBoxingguru. Haven't done one of these podcasts in a long time, and no excuses. Just been busy. I'm doing this without an intro. I got a new computer, so I'm I just logged in, and I don't know why, because I was at work today, and it finally hit me. You know what? It's another big fight night. We don't have these as often as we should. I don't think we've ever had these as often as we should, at least in a long time. And this morning I saw somebody's tweet that said it's fight week. And damn, I gotta admit, I got a little bit of the goosebumps. You know, it's this fight between both of these guys, Canelo Alvarez and Triple G, is one of those fights that I've been following around for a very long time. I mean, God, how many years? Maybe 10? You know, I mean, we've been doing this. We've been trying to get Canelo, Triple G in the ring for such a long time, and when it finally happens, it's a thing of beauty. And yeah, I kind of just wanted to come back and talk to you guys about it, because again, I'm very in touch with boxing. I try to listen more than just speak, and listen to other folks' podcasts, and listen to other people's opinions instead of just hearing, my voices in my own head. And it's pretty interesting the way a lot of folks think. I think as far as, having my own podcast, I always thought, at least I brought the fans' perspective into this, and that's what I always try to bring. You guys already know I'm not media. I never claimed to be media. I don't want to be media. But that's who we listen to, a lot of these media folks. So it's interesting to see their perspective, and interesting to see what I think the boxing fan wants to listen to, especially when it comes to these predictions and whatnot. Like you guys know, I don't bring out predictions. I just want to sit back and tell you guys a little story. As far as this fight goes, you know what? Again, it's interesting because we chased the first fight with Canelo since God knows when. I mean, since Canelo was at 155 pounds, and he actually got his belt at 155 pounds, and we've been wanting that fight, and we've pretty much begged it since I would say maybe for a decade, easily a fucking decade. And I think it grew out of frustration with Canelo, with Mexicans in general needing that hero, the one. I mean, we've always had someone to cheer on, someone to defy the odds. We had the Chavez's, we had the De La Hoyas, we had the Vargas's, and of course me as being Mexican American, that's who we cheered on after the great Julio Cesar Chavez. Again, we had Oscar, we had Vargas, we had a lot of local talent here in Southern California that I am very privileged to have seen. So we've always had that. We had, again, the Marquezes, again, Mexicanos de huevos, the Marquezes, the Morales, the you know what I mean, the Barreras that are out there that gave us great fights. But I feel like this newer generation needed somebody. Now that, again, for example, my generation, I'm 42 years old now. I needed somebody to cheer on for, now that I could afford to go buy a ticket. Not that I go to fights anymore, but now that I could afford to buy a ticket, we needed, the boxing community needed a good Mexican fighter, and we all knew it's always been Canelo for such a long time, but at the same time, we never saw Canelo fight those type of fights, and I get it. Some of us were eager to see him match tough, not to see him beat, but to see exactly what he got, because he was in our face so much. I mean, he was in our face since he was he honestly, again, it has to be over a decade, almost 2 decades, if that, at least 15 years, because what was the Josecito Lopez fight at? You know, sometime, what? Oh, shit, I don't even know. I mean, it's like 2012. So, again, that's 2012. That means Canelo was already, you know, selling these big arenas. So, he was already a hell of an attraction. So, Canelo's been in our heads that long. So, we finally, and Golovkin came at a time where we almost needed that superhero. We wanted that we wanted to claim a great fighter as our own, and I'm speaking as a American community. And when Golovkin kind of, I guess, cheesed us into believing, you know, all Mexicans for Golovkin, and I did. Now I still enjoy it because I still like trolling Canelo fans. So when he finally gave, you know, when Golovkin finally knew how to capitalize on a fan base, he picked a hell of a fan base because it was a Mexican fan base. This is a Mexican fan base that adored his type of style. This is a Mexican fanboy, I said fanboy, wow. A Mexican fan base that needed somebody to cheer on, and Canelo just wasn't doing it. Chavez Jr. was definitely not doing it. And we kind of attach ourselves to Golovkin because, again, Canelo wasn't doing, what I would call his job. I mean, Canelo was fighting the Josecito Lopez's, you know, the guy at 140. He was fighting him at his miracle catch weight of 155. He went and fought Austin Trout, which I think was a great fight, not stylistically, but at least to put on your resume. He fought Austin Trout of the world, and he ended up fighting Floyd Mayweather, you know, which of course we knew would happen. And again, you know what? That's the great thing about the Mexican fan base. He lost to Floyd Mayweather in a very embarrassing manner, but I don't think anybody held it against him, and still today you don't hold it against him. You fucking fought the best, and you lost, so fucking what? I mean, if anything, his stardom got even bigger, and you went and fought fighters, and you fought the Laras, you fight the Kirklands, and that's when people started, you know, saying, you know, all right, what the fuck's going on? I get you gotta build yourself up, but at the end of the day, when you're a champion, you're still fighting these type of opponents. It's almost like it's great for the casual fan base, and look, at the end of the day, that's what they got. But you're almost insulting the fan base, and I think that's what Golden Boy did by you know, getting guys like Miguel Cotto, fucking Amir Khan that used to be at 135 pounds. That had a glass chin and somehow got Chavez Jr. after Chavez Jr. was a freaking shell of himself, and not so much physically but mentally. And then eventually, you know, again, like I said, from 2012, then eventually in 2017, he finally decides to give that old man Golovkin a fight. And a great fight they gave us. I mean, this was, I think, not a super fight when it came to, oh, you know, this guy is knocking this guy out of this. This was just a great competitive fight when you put two great fighters together. Canelo lost, and if you say otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. But Canelo, in my opinion, Canelo lost that fight and you know, gave Gennady a sour. I mean, how can I say this without being a fucking piece of shit? Look, you made fucking boxing look like shit. Make boxing look like a corrupt sport. We talked about Adelaide Bird. We talked about we focus so much on the judges, which again we shouldn't really be paying attention. We politicize boxing, which is something I fucking hate. But it came to a point where now boxing is under the microscope because now people are actually paying attention to these fucking robberies that are happening, and this is exactly what happened to Golovkin. He fucking got robbed out of his great fight. Again, Canelo losing to Golovkin was never a bad thing. It's okay, just like when he lost against Floyd. It wasn't necessarily a bad thing, you know, when two of the best fighters fight each other and one loses. It's fucking okay. Shit fucking happens. You move on. You rebuild, and you either give it another crack or you rebuild your career in a different way. So what ended up happening after that? Canelo ended up with a banned substance that, of course, now it's unbanned because, again, that's just the type of fighter Canelo is, the type of fighter that, what type of pull Canelo has. And, yeah, that's what happened. Then the fight got postponed. And then eventually, they fought again. So, again, they fought in what, 2017? I believe it was what, it was what, 2017. They didn't fight again for another year because Canelo had gone suspended. So, and in this one, and this is the great thing, this goes back to exactly what I was talking about. You can redeem yourself after a loss. In my opinion, Canelo lost to Gennady. And when it ended up happening on the rematch, Canelo knew he lost. His people knew he lost. So they know that the only way to get rid of a puncher is to, you know, push a puncher back. And that's exactly what he did. In my opinion, Canelo won the second fight. Maybe a draw, but I've always leaned more towards a win, at least by one, maybe even 2 rounds pushing it. But it was great. It was great. That's the type of rivalries that we wanted to see. Of course, Canelo being the fighter that he is, he wanted no part of a third match, and I don't blame him. I mean, he went through hell those first 2 fights. He was on survival mode the first one. He actually went for the kill on the second one, and he did fucking great. So he deserved this. So now, in my opinion, and to the fans' opinion, it's 1-1. Canelo wanted to go on a different route. He wanted to go and again make history, which we all know that's a fucking bunch of bullshit. So he goes and fights the weakest possible fighter, sort of like when everybody was picking on Paulie Malignaggi at 147 or even at 140 whenever he got his hands around a belt. He went and fought a guy named Rocky Fielding with the fucking it's just, again, he went the European route. He went inside to find these robotic Europeans, which again, by now they're getting much better. But again, he went and fought a European guy that was just smiling at him, that he had no idea how to block or take a body punch away from him. He went and fought that. Fucking embarrassing. Then he went and fought Daniel Jacobs, and Daniel Jacobs, in my opinion, was a good fight. And he kind of with Daniel Jacobs, he was kind of a close fight. Closer than expected, but again, he got the W. He ended up fighting Kovalev, and you guys already know the Caleb Smith, and he went through this, I only fight white fighters era, which again was pretty interesting. He fought this Caleb Plant, and he ended up fighting Bivol, and now he's scheduled to fight Golovkin again. But the question is, why take so long? I get that they wanted to do their own history, but there was always things that weren't resolved. Canelo got popped 30, then he came back and fought him, and he fought him like the way Canelo fought Golovkin the second time was like if he was possessed. He actually looked good. He didn't fear the puncher, which is, kind of raises an eyebrow as well. Now we're fighting again in 2022. Again in 2022, Golovkin is what, 40 and some change, or 40. Now we get the fight. The sad part about getting this fight now is that if Canelo wins, which again he should, as much of a Golovkin fan as I am, I think Canelo should win. There's that built-in excuse that he fought an old man. If the fight is remotely close, they're going to say, well, now we see why he was ducking, because this was a legit duck. Regardless of what you say that Canelo was trying to make history, he made history by fighting the weakest links at 175, at 168. I mean, at least he unified all the titles, but still, it was kind of a weak run. Let's be honest. Canelo's undisputed run 168 reminded me of Crawford's run at 140. It was I get it, you're undisputed, but versus who? Now Golovkin didn't do himself any favors either. Golovkin, again, once he fought Canelo, he thought that by beating Canelo, you become Canelo, so you become this fucking monster, and that's far from the truth. Golovkin ended up fighting Steve Rolls after the Golovkin fight. So again, who's Steve Rolls? Where's Steve Rolls now? Somebody tell me. Deverenchenko. This was a very tough fight for Golovkin that a lot of people will argue with you. He lost. He ended up fighting other fighters like Murata. The Murata fight was a very interesting fight and kind of goes full circle on what I was saying earlier, that what type of a fighter is Canelo really going to fight / beat? On the Murata fight versus Golovkin, this was this had to be about a year ago, no? But no, actually, I'm sorry, this was this year. So on the Murata fight, Golovkin looked like he was trying to get off the first couple of rounds. He couldn't really catch him. He couldn't really hurt Murata the first, I would say 2-3 rounds, maybe even 4. And no, maybe about 3 rounds. Then he started capitalizing. Then he started tagging him. And I mean, he was just a sitting duck, but it wasn't so much Golovkin getting to Murata. It was Murata that was actually tagging up Golovkin kind of bad. And I don't know, man. It looked to me like he took a while to warm up, and it looked to me like it was an unnecessary war. Murata's the type of fighter that Golovkin should have been able to get rid of right away. Or maybe not right away, but just look that much better and he didn't. He really didn't. And I think that's when all was said and done, I think that's the type of fight that they wanted to see from Golovkin. And that's the type of almost natural wear and tear that I think Canelo's folks wanted to see from Golovkin, being the opportunists that they are, and now at such a late stage in his career, make the fucking fight happen. The sad part about all of this is that this is quite honestly one of the best fights and most even fights that you could still make for Canelo, because who else is out there at 168? Or even from 160, which I think Canelo's body is more shape for 160. At 168, he just looks like a fucking bouncer. What other fighter out there is there for Canelo? Don't say, Benavidez is a good fighter. He's a great fighter. But I think he's that much bigger than Canelo. It's like Canelo fighting at 175. I think, as a matter of fact, I think Benavidez is even big for 175. He's a big kid. There's no other fighter out there, again, besides Benavidez, where you would say, okay, I want to see this fight, or this fight's going to move the needle. Unfortunately, fighters with PBC do not move the needle as much as they would with a Golovkin card. And I'm not being a dick to PBC. I think they're doing great now. They're doing so much better than they were 1, 2, maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago. But we've seen the type of numbers that Benavidez could do on him by himself in his own home state. They're not very good. Golovkin, still being a guy without a natural fan base here in the U.S., fucking guy still moves the needle, still put asses in seats regardless of who he fights, still fills up arenas. That's moving the needle. Again, when you can't move the needle as a fighter in your own hometown, there's a fucking issue. But again, we get the fight again. It's a fight that I've been waiting for a very long time. You guys already know I made shirts for both Canelo and Golovkin. It's hard to cheer for one or the other. This is the type of fight that you just sit back and honestly enjoy. Fuck rooting for this guy. Fuck rooting for that guy. Enjoy, because we don't have these type of fights anymore. We don't get these trilogies anymore. When was the last trilogy we saw? There's only maybe one that's pending, and that's the Chocolatito versus Gallo. There's nothing else that remotely sparks the interest of boxing fans anymore. And if it does, people are trying to fight over who sells how many pay-per-views or whatnot. I'll give you a prime example. Look at the Spence versus Crawford fight. This fight should have been done like 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Why not? These guys are absolute fucking monsters. You're keeping Spence at 147 when we know Spence should be at like 150, 154, or even, touching 160 pounds by now. But you're keeping him there because you won this mythical fight that for some reason, I don't get it hasn't happened. Hopefully we could get a trilogy, but man, these guys are getting old. I mean, we need them to fight legit fighters, and we still can't get that. Again, this Canelo fight, I'm fucking. I didn't want to talk about any other boxing because I'll be quite frank with you. I'm in one of those stages where I don't really give a fuck about boxing right now. But when it comes to these fights, I feel like as hardcore boxing fans, we have to get up for these type of fans. Obviously, none of the promoters are doing anything for us to get up and cheer for. As a matter of fact, some of these YouTubers are putting on better fucking cards. MMA, you know what? And that's a sad part. I was looking for a link to the MMA. I fucking hate MMA, but I was somehow, I don't know why, I was looking for a link to the MMA fight this weekend versus that goofy kangaroo-looking motherfucker from up north. But that's how I think disconnected a lot of us are from boxing anymore, because it just doesn't ignite anything, and it should. I really hope Golden Boy could go back to their heyday and just, even if they're small ballroom fights, but, spark up the imagination where you want to bet the next guy, or you want to bet this guy or that guy because you don't know who's actually going to win, who's a, quote unquote A-side, which again, I hate that fucking word A-side. You just want to see good fights. You hope Eddie Hearn keeps doing what he's doing and creating these fucking stars like that he has. Look, man, we can't hate on what Eddie Hearn has going on right now. He created the phenomenon in Joshua. He's got Canelo now. He's got Bam. He's capturing the imagination and gambling on his fucking fighters and betting on himself and betting on his fighters. So that's fucking great. So let's hope boxing keeps it up. Let's hope you continue to get great fights. And, yeah, man, let's keep it going. Damn, this just sounds depressing. Not to fucking listen to this shit. All right. So one thing I did ask on Instagram is to pretty much ask me questions like I used to. And I have a few of them. So let's make sure we listen to them again. And shout out to everybody that asked questions. Let me see what's out there. Okay, guys, 1 second. Let's see. Let me see. I'm gonna just answer a few of them. Let's see. Pinkster007 says, now that the hype for Gabe Flores is over, will Top Rank focus more on Xander? Look, you know what? I'm surprised that it went on as long as it did. I really like Gabe Flores. I really like his dad. But I guess you just can't, Top Rank can't get everything right. Look, coming out the gate, I think Gabe Flores looked really good. He looked sharp, versus the opposition he was fighting. But once the going got tough and he wasn't able to punch through fighters or, knock out your regular Mexican fighter, it became sad. And the sadder part was that I think he had a beautiful story, him, fighting for his mama. I think that was fucking awesome. It was beautiful. I think every son can relate to it. But once you see a fighter that, just almost feels like he's losing all, if any, type of interest, it's kind of, or it kind of acts like a little asshole in there. And no disrespect again to Gabe Flores Sr., but that's kind of what we got. So I think it was very easy for people to root against him when I think we all collectively forget why we were rooting for this guy, man. Look, again, he's fighting for, for the memory of his mother. I thought that was very special. But at the end of the day, when you don't have the ability, when you don't have and you try to portray this little swag, dude, and I don't know, I guess this is Northern California thing, that they try to be all swaggy waggy. But when you try to act like that, you can't even shake your opponent's hand. That's when you're like, especially the Mexican in you, because Mexicans, I mean, we try to be as humble as possible. We try to be helpful. We try to be as respectful as we possibly can, except to Glasser. And when you can't even shake your opponent's hand, you're like, man, fuck this dude. That's the first thing you say. Man, fuck this motherfucker. I hope this motherfucker get knocked the fuck out. And that's exactly what happened both times with that he acted like that. I really hope that he ends up doing something that he likes, but boxing isn't it. If you can't keep fighters like that off of you, boxing definitely not it. Dad the Griller. Hey, shout out to Dad the Griller, man. He does these boxing pools, I guess you could say, where it's called the Quinela, when you go and I guess you raffle off numbers, and whoever gets the knockout or whatever round the fight actually ends on, then you win. So shout out to that. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what he wanted me to say. He wanted me to say that he still has quinelas going. I think he does $5, $10, $20, $50, or even $100 quinelas for these fights. So make sure you give him a holler. All right, Bizarre Star. Shout out to the homie Gracie. Says, why did Canelo say he thinks G would win, but then said you never know? I think, in my opinion, and I think it's a two-part question. In my opinion, I think Canelo's just trying to, get people to buy into this fight, because a lot of people really think that Golovkin doesn't have a shot to win this fight. I just think he's tugging out of his ass. And the second part is, was the holdup with Ryan and Gervonta? There is no holdup. I don't see that fight ever happening. I don't see that fight happening right now. There's a thing called over marination. This is it, Gracie. One fight that reminds me of this is when we, of course, we were all craving Gamboa versus Juanma Lopez. It was a fight that, Gamboa was a fucking monster. Juanma was a monster. And little by little, they kept marinating the fight. So both of these motherfuckers got knocked the fuck out by fucking bums. Well, maybe not bums, but, compared to what they were trying to build this fight off to. So I don't think it's going to happen. If it happens, good. I think Ryan gets sparked. If it happens, let's say, within a year. Anything after that, Ryan's a growing boy. He's getting bigger. 140 pounds suits him very well. Starting to fill up into his frame. So right now, if I was Gervonta and his folks, this is the time to make the fight. If not, just got to walk away from it now. Let's see. Will the box... I'm not even going to say the name. Will the boxing reporter couple ever get back together? I don't know, bro. I mean, look, man, I'm not... I guess there was this boxing couple reporters that used to be together. Now they're not. And man, look, man, these guys are fucking piece of shits. Man, jump into her DMs, man. You never know. Fucking psycho bastards. Is Juice ever going to fix his mamalona? Shout out to Juice Go that's been fixing his project truck for a very long time. And Pancho the chef asks, and shout out to Pancho. He has a local restaurant. He invited me the other day. It's called Casa de Pancho in Walnut, and I believe he has another location in Anaheim or Anaheim Hills. But Casa de Pancho here in Walnut is a small location, has good food, great micheladas, and a mariachi. Next time I'm actually going to get up there and sing. Hopefully the dogs don't come out and howl, but very fun environment. It's close to my house, maybe about 10-15 minutes, and closer to my job, maybe about 2-3 minutes. So shout out to Pancho the chef. Pancho the chef asks, why do you take so damn long to do a podcast, compa? We miss your podcast, compa. Animo. Big shout out again to Pancho the chef. Look, man, there's no excuse. I'm just fucking lazy. I can say, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Yeah, I'm doing this, but you always have time for things that you love. And sometimes boxing, you love boxing so much it doesn't love you back, so you hit it back with a fucking counter punch. It le dices al boxing que chingue su mam. But now I'm gonna try to do this more often, man. I think there's a audience for my podcast. Very quiet audience that enjoy them. And when you guys told me to enjoy them, it could be 2, it could be 3. You guys, as long as you guys enjoy them, I'm gonna keep doing them. Let's see. And Duarte J4 asks, what does a victory for Canelo do for him moving forward? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Canelo has everything to lose. Imagine if Canelo loses after losing to Bivol, after losing and now losing to Golovkin. There's nothing to gain. If Canelo wins, people are gonna say that he fought an old man and he beat an old man. He did. He will. But there's nothing to gain. There's nothing for him. There's no belts. He keeps his belts. There's his financial gain, great, but there's nothing else to gain, and that's okay because not every fight has to have a meaning. This is just a great fight. Look, if this fight didn't have belts, I would still want to watch this shit because it's that type of fight. All right, guys, that's it for me. I am out. Again, thank you guys. Hopefully you guys listen to it. I'm sorry there's no intro, there's no audio, none of that crazy shit. But that's it. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure you guys like it on Spotify or Spreaker or on where else? Spotify, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, wherever podcasts are heard. Make sure you guys like it. If it's on iTunes, make sure you guys subscribe to it because I will start doing these more often. Make sure you guys leave a review because somebody left a review that I was something and I didn't like it. All right, guys. Again, thank you for listening to the Mr. Boxing Guru podcast. Thank you, and hasta luego. Goodbye.